Hello, and welcome to episode 69. Dustin's favorite number for reasons that are not airwaves appropriate.
Was it
For the
Shorzy number 69 on Letterkenny? Or have you guys not seen Letterkenny?
yeah. No, I've seen enough to know. But
Yeah,
unfortunately
that sounds
there hasn't been any Red Wing to wear 69, but yeah. So this is another wing sauce edition, the playoff edition. Yeah, baby.
Finally.
Yeah.
Exciting.
First round.
Exciting.
Let's go.
A lot of interesting matchups.
Yeah. There, like we were discussing a little bit, there's not one that's kind of like, I don't really want to I don't want to tune into that. Every single one of these is going to be a good thing to watch for sure.
Yep.
So, but yeah, guys, we don't have any really like Red Wings news to bring up other than that we had Daniella Bruce on.
So our second broadcasting person, all I have to say is we picked two people that are on TV more than anybody to be our Zoom people, and they kind of made us. They're super good at looking at the camera versus Connor, Tyler, and I, who are looking around, looking at.
I know.
Things.
I'm looking at my notes. I'm feeding you guys text messages like, hey, what do we talk about next?
So
like,
my issue is like my camera's straight ahead of me, so unless I'm like looking at the camera, like I'm not looking, and it's like weird because I want to look at you guys and see your facial expressions and visual cues, but it's like it's kind of hard not to unless I want to look directly at the camera.
Well, did you fix the camera angle for this past one?
I think so. Like it was over in this corner, so I try to make it like it was like more where the screen was.
Yeah. So it's not like directly right at you, but it's kind of like off to the side a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
You. So how are we feeling?
Well, I'm feeling good. I got my truck fixed after dealing with GM saying that they weren't going to fix under warranty, but we're good to go now.
Oh, I didn't hear that part. You said it was under warranty, but I didn't know they were.
Dude. Yeah. So
was it a headache?
Oh my God. So I bought the truck in December. So it's got like 6,000 miles on it. Well, I've put 6,000 miles on it. I bought it pre-owned. So I take it in. They're like, yeah. I was like, I got this thing from OnStart saying that my starter's going out. Can you take a look at it? And they're like, well, unfortunately, we still have to do a diagnostic. It's going to be $125 plus whatever the repair is. So I'm like, well, no, it's under warranty.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a thing. And like, no, it's $125 plus the repair. So I'm like, first off, that doesn't even sound right. I was like, so forget it. I'm leaving. So I called the dealership I went to. It's like, oh, no, bring it in. There is a $125 diagnostic fee. However, if it's covered under warranty, there's nothing. And if it's there's a service to be prepared, you take the $125 off the service. I was like, all right, whatever. And then he's telling me it's a battery. I'm like, bro, it's not a battery. Like a battery wouldn't be, my car would come in and be dead.
It's essentially a new truck.
Yes. I was like, it's not a battery. And sure enough, he's like, oh yeah, it's the starter. After like 5 hours.
No shit.
Yeah. I was like, no fucking shit, dude. That's what the OnStar app said. Thanks for the obvious, dude. But needless to say, my truck starts up like fucking
right away.
Yeah, apparently the starter's been going out for a second because like I started it up and I was like, oh, it's kind of a slow starting truck. No, dude. Today I started up fucking immediate. I was like, oh, damn.
Purrs like a kitten.
Yep.
Yeah. With that 5.3.
Yeah, exactly.
That rumble.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I like it. Connor, what about you?
I'm good. I don't have any starter issues with my car. Luckily,
or your boat.
But, yeah, or my no, I'm sure there's going to be starter issues with the boat. There's always something.
Bust out another 1,000, baby.
Right? Yeah, but at the moment the boat's looking good. The boat's sounding great, and I'm going to go on it later today.
Top speed?
I actually don't know what the top speed is. I mean, it's pretty light. It's a pontoon boat. And
that means it's quick.
So it's
is he kind of skipping across the water?
Oh yeah. If you guys want to go tubing, skiing, wakey, that's the place to be.
Barefoot.
But no, maybe it's not that fast, but it's getting there. But I'm just excited about playoffs. So I'm excited. It's kind of going to be a nice day. I'm going to go on the boat and then going to come back and watch the first game. I think it's Boston's.
Washington
today.
What time's
Boston? Yeah.
7.
So,
7.
7. Yeah. Yeah. So
let me double check on that. I think I saw something.
7:30.
Okay. First off, boys. Oh, that's
watch
tomorrow.
It be like midday, like a matinee.
No, it's at 7:15. It's at 7:15.
Oh, see, that's weird. 7:15 is weird.
The first game I saw was for Sunday at noon. I was like, shit. But yeah.
Oh wait. Wait a minute. Vancouver Edmonton is on at 3:30.
That's not even a game.
Oh no, that's a regular season game.
Oh, they're still playing?
I guess so. Okay. I'm seeing it like
Yeah, no.
Live, seeing it live as we record.
Interesting.
Breaking news.
Right. Okay, then. So Edmonton's got a warm-up game before the playoffs start, apparently.
Yeah.
Yep. McDavid better
So-
not be playing.
I guess so that statistically they
Right.
can't get to first place. That's how they're seated second.
Everything's already set. Yeah,
That's what I'm
everything's
saying.
already
So
set in stone, yeah.
statistically, they could not. There's no possible way for them ever to move up to first. That's why they could set the playoff
Right.
seeds.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of that, do we want to roll right into it?
Yeah, might as well.
Yeah, I want to hear your guys' pick. I'm excited.
So let's start off with Toronto and Montreal. Do either of you guys want to kick it
So
off?
Tyler's favorite team, I didn't choose. I want the Leafs in 6. I think they might get out of the first round since they don't have Boston. But the Habs may surprise people. But I'm still going with the Leafs.
Yeah, and this will be a reoccurring theme for me. So I actually picked Leafs in 6 as well. I said it before. I think it was before we started recording too. I think the big storyline here for playoffs is just how many rivalries that the teams, maybe not actual rivalries, but like playing each other so many times.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, especially when you look at, when we talk about it later, but like the Florida matchups and both obviously the Canadian matchups, Toronto and Montreal, that'll be crazy. I just can't see it being anything less than 6 games, even if it was crazy lopsided, just because of how both teams will play. So either way, I think the Leafs will get out of the first round. I think they'll take it in 6.
Yep. Literally the same exact thing. For all the same reasons, and to kind of piggyback off of what you were saying, Connor, where it's not going to go any less than 6 is because they've played each other so many times where it's so hard for them to, it's going to be very difficult for any team, I think, in these playoffs to beat them 4 straight, just because they've played each other all year. They know each other's different schemes.
That could also play into the fact that they could take them because they know those schemes.
You're right.
They know the
You're right.
goaltending. They know what's going on. So we'll see. I have like I was mentioning before, I have a sweep. So we'll see.
No, I love it. Rolling right. So we all have Toronto in 6. No surprise.
And by
there.
the way, for everybody, we don't know. I have no idea what you guys are going to say right now.
Yeah, we haven't discussed any of this.
And I have all my picks written down, so there's no.
I do. Yeah,
so
I do too.
I have my secret picks as well on my wing sauce pad.
There you go.
Nice. All right, go ahead,
So
Doug.
Edmonton, Winnipeg. Go ahead, Dustin.
So I was contemplating picking my ass tattoo team just because, I was telling the boys I did place a bet on them to win the Stanley Cup, just due to the fact that if I'm getting a tattoo on my ass, I don't want to pay for it. However, I did pick Edmonton in 6. The McDrysaddle combo is just too overpowering. I can't see them not getting out of the first round.
Yeah, and I have Edmonton in 7 actually. Edmonton's had some trouble in playoffs. I think everybody is aware of that. I think that they're the better team, but I think that just with their struggles over the past however many years, I could see it going to 7. Winnipeg's a hard team, but like just the talent alone, I think will take them over the top and take it. And McDavid might play 45 minutes in Game 7.
Yeah, I have the McDrysaddles in 6. I think that if it goes into Game 7, I think that the real story for Winnipeg is going to be Hellebuyck. That's who's going to keep them competitive. Their star power up front really has to show up if they have a chance at taking this to 7. So Edmonton in 6 for me. But hold
up. So I got something. So Connor mentioned, Connor McDavid, if there was a Game 7, he'd be playing 45 minutes. This is a perfect segue into my Wayne Gretzky story. So game 2 of the 1987 Canada Cup, Wayne Gretzky actually played. I think he's playing quite like almost that amount of time. Needless to say, as the second overtime, he actually pissed his pants.
No way.
Yeah, on the bench because he was so tired. He just was like exhausted, pissed his pants. There's a comment on Howard Stern. He was talking about it. He's like, yeah, luckily we're sweating pretty heavy because it probably still smelled pretty bad.
Oh my gosh. That's like, don't marathon runners do that?
Yeah. That's what he said, a triathlon runner. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's nuts.
Yeah, but sorry, that's just kind of give me a perfect segue into that.
Yeah, there you go.
McDavid's going to be playing 45 minutes. So he'll piss himself.
Yep.
You heard it here first. Dustin called it.
Yep.
All right. not really a segue into this next one, but Carolina versus Nashville. Nashville is my ass tattoo team, guys. I'll kick this one off just because I have Carolina in 7. I think that Nashville is going to put up a hell of a fight.
Okay.
Again, a story about goaltending. UC Saros is he's going to be the one keeping the Preds in business. But I think that Carolina's they're a really, really good team. They've been strong all year. So why would they not show up now?
No, absolutely. I'll take it. So I'm picking the Canes. I have them in 5. Nashville, I just don't think has the playoff depth right now. I think we talked about it earlier in the year. It's just one of those teams like, yeah, they're decent, but they're not that good. I don't think they have a long run. And I mean, I see them
They've played better.
They have played
much
better.
better.
I'm not discounting that, but I just don't think they have enough to take Carolina or, not lose 5.
Yeah.
Or not lose, 4 rather.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have Carolina in 6. There's two series here that I was pretty on the fence about. This is definitely one of them where maybe if it was just the lack of watching Carolina and Nashville that much, unless it's Red Wings or whatever, but I just didn't have a strong feeling about this series. But the few times I did watch Carolina, I mean, they looked really good. Nashville has played better, but I just don't think, to Dustin's point, I don't think they have the depth. I don't think they're built for the playoffs unless their goalies are just absolutely showing up, and that's the only way.
Right.
Which can happen. It's happened before, so it can definitely happen, and that's the only way I see them getting out of this round.
100%. If you don't have that goaltending, I think we've talked about numerous times, that's what
Especially
you have
for
to.
Nashville, yeah.
Exactly, and that's what you have to have in the playoffs. If you don't have a good goaltender, you're not going to make it. You're not going to win. Period.
Yeah. Now, so everyone has Carolina. I think we're pretty much in sync. Maybe off a couple on the games, but right now we're pretty much on sync with everything. So the Battle of Florida.
Ooh.
This is a much anticipated series, boys. First time in their franchise history, both of them, 27 years, I believe it is, that they haven't met each other in playoffs.
Wow.
Insane to think about, but this is going to be one of the most watched series, I would bet, aside from maybe the Jetta sees something. Come on, Jetta, you were so good. And anyway, yeah. So who wants to kick off this one?
I can. I just haven't kicked off before, so
there you go.
In the 4th.
Yeah. Sorry, Connor.
No, it's whatever. I just want you guys to know that I'm not copying you. That's why I wanted to go first.
Yeah.
I'm going Tampa. We got someone likes my pick, and I love it. Or Jetta just hates my pick. One of the two.
Jetta approves.
Jetta approves of Tampa. No, I got Tampa in 7. This is one of those where I was going back when I touched on the rivalry and the hate in the battles. I think this is one of them that just the hatred and kind of how they play against and what they've shown in the regular season so far kind of plays into their hands of going long. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Tampa's getting some guys back too, so it's going to be just in time. Yep. Kucherov's coming back, which is obviously. Yeah, I was going to say, is Stamkos coming back?
Yeah, that's the word on the street. Stamkos is coming back as well with Kucherov for the first round. I mean, that's going to be huge for Tampa. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Especially right now, they could have fresh legs, and it's not like they're a couple guys that haven't seen playoff experience before. They know that it's not like they need the warm up games or whatever. They should be able to come in and get 15 points in the first series and no problem coming back. So either way, Tampa's my pick in 7.
Perfect. So I'll take it. So this was I was with Connor. It was kind of back and forth. I actually took Florida in 7. I think Yandel really, really, really wants to see, deep playoffs. He deserves it. I think the Florida team for once is clicking. Do they have the depth to go far? I guess it's remain to be seen. Florida's coming off a hot Stanley Cup run, so they're looking for back-to-back. So are kind of curious to see how that plans out.
Yeah. So sorry about the dog, boys. She went outside, but yeah, she told me she loved your pick, Connor. She loved it. She just couldn't contain herself. So
I know a lot of people out there are going to be barking when they listen.
So yeah, for Florida and Tampa Bay, I have Tampa Bay in 6. Strictly, and I know I shouldn't rely on last season. But I just think that and Vasilevsky hasn't been great this year. He's been good enough, but he hasn't been the same. I shouldn't say that because he's probably still in the running for Vezina, but he's not as good and dominant as he was last year. Having said that, I think that there's a lot of pressure on Florida with this being their first playoff appearance. And I think that Tampa's maybe, or not their first playoff appearance, but first one in a while, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if they made it last year.
No, they didn't make it last year.
I just think that there's a lot of pressure on Florida to perform, and I don't know. I don't know if they're going to be able to shake that. I think that Tampa, they have the confidence, and they don't have the pressure of the returning Cup champs. They kind of tailed off at the end, but they also did that last year. So we'll see. But I have Tampa in 6.
So just a quick little stat. Florida Panthers last made the playoffs in 2016, where they lost in the first round. And they've been in the playoffs a total of 5 times in their 26 seasons.
I think in their second season, they made it to the Cup Finals. And lost.
The closest to even winning was in a 1996 when they lost the Stanley Cup final. So yep, the first season was in 1994. So their second season, their third season. Rough. I hate that fucking weird 94, 95.
94, 95.
Yeah, exactly.
I was close enough.
I think it was second season.
All right, so what do we got next?
So we have Pittsburgh and New York Islanders.
All right, so I'm gonna start this one off. Surprising, I went with the Islanders in 6.
Ooh.
And I just don't know. I just don't feel too confident about the Pittsburgh team. And kind of with Connor, I haven't watched enough of that series to kind of have a good input. I'm just going to go with my gut feeling and say Islanders in 6.
Yeah, this was that other series I was talking about earlier that I was kind of on the fence about, kind of similar to Carolina and Nashville. But and I was only on the fence before. Remember in the beginning of the season, we had our picks. I just didn't think Pittsburgh was going to have it. This season, just being a little bit older, not having the depth. They made some crazy moves at the deadline, which brought them that depth. They were already playing well. They're playing really well right now. I think they finished. They're the number 1 seed, right? So I mean, they're they finished well. They played well all season. They definitely proved me wrong. So that was kind of my pick, is that I could see it going to the other way with the Islanders winning. But it's Islanders. It's more of like, hey, you got to prove it to me first, and they just haven't done that yet. And Pittsburgh has numerous times, especially being a Detroit fan. So I'm going with Pittsburgh in 6.
Yep, I have Pittsburgh in 6 as well. And sorry guys, I was writing down. I figured we should keep track of all this. So I was trying to remember everything, but yeah, I have Pittsburgh in 6 as well. I think that they've been really catching fire, especially from the time that they signed Jeff Carter. They've been one of the hottest teams, and when you have that momentum going into playoffs, it could go. It's either 50-50. It's either they continue that momentum or it just goes the opposite way. So yeah. I think that they're going to continue with it. I'm sticking with Pittsburgh in 6.
Okay.
Now, this is a big one, boys. The one that kicks it off today at 7:15. Washington and Boston.
I'll start it off, and I kind of picked more with my heart rather than the games. I can honestly see I can see this going either way, like most of these, but this one probably more than any of the other ones. For me anyway, I have Washington in 7. I wanted Washington. I want to see them win. So that's why I'd like to see them win more than Boston. But again, if you said Boston won in 7 or even 6 or whatever, I wouldn't be surprised. But the same thing goes for Washington. I could see them winning in 6 or 7. I just want to see a game 7, and I want to see Washington win. So that's what I picked. Can you imagine a game 7?
Oh my gosh.
Washington, unreal. So there you go. That's my pick.
I like it. I went with the Caps in 6. Same thing, Connor. I just want the Caps to win. I honestly can see it going both ways. They're both.
I want to watch Ovi more.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what the thing is. I feel like if Ovi gets shut down in the first round, he may not be coming back. But I did see an article before we started recording saying that he wants to win a cup and wants another contract. So let's hope that happens. I want to see him beat some records, as in the goal record.
Right.
So
yeah, I have Washington in 7 as well. And really the only reason why is because I think that Boston's going to put up a good offensive fight. They have a lot of power up front. They're Heavy up there. Tuukka Rask doesn't really, him and Halak or whoever they have in net. I guess that just goes to show how much I'm not paying attention to that. And how it's probably off a lot of people's radars. So yeah, I'm not impressed by it. I think that Washington will win in 7.
Over under and how many times the announcers bring up Chara in Boston.
Oh my gosh.
It's going to be like, especially this first game, the entire entire game is going to be like a camera just on Chara talking about, and like videos back to him being in his first uniform in Boston.
Guys, watch tonight. I guarantee you, the bum, 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 bum. And then they have it like pans to like Chara warming up 100%. That's what it's going to go to. He's going to be like, well, the big man playing against his former team, the former captain, blah, blah, blah. We get it.
Or like, it's going to be him roughing up somebody in front of the net, and they're going to talk about how they were like line mates back in whatever, or like they were roommates in 2011 when they went to whatever.
Here's when Chara dished him a pass.
Pierre is going to cream himself if he is on the call today in between the benches. But real quick, I wanted, just so I have it wrote down here, Connor, you had in the Tampa Florida series, what did you have?
I had Tampa in 7.
Tampa in 7. Okay. And then for Edmonton, did we all say Edmonton in?
I said Edmonton in 7.
I said Edmonton in 6.
Okay. That's what I thought. Sorry, boys. All right. Moving on to the Avs, the President's Trophy winners.
Right.
Versus the St. Louis Blues.
I'll kick this off again. Just be really quick. Just because, we've been talking about it all year. I'm going Colorado in 5. I can see it going 4. I can't see it going past 5.
I'll keep it short too. Ditto.
So that
I got you.
Are you guys all in 5?
Nope. Little sweep across. Little four game. Yep. 4 game Avs, dude. I feel like they're coming out hot. They're coming out hot.
Yeah, they're built for playoffs. They got the depth there. They can make a run. This is our pick too, Tyler, of beginning of the season. So, all right. I like your sweep, Dustin. There you go. I do like it. It's just I'm just too afraid to pick a sweep in hockey. It's all right. So hard to win it. It's all right. To win 4 times in a row.
I tried to draw a little picture of a broom.
Oh, I like it. I like it.
Looks like an axe. But
all right. So I'll go next. You guys should know who I'm picking. It didn't even
hold on.
Whoa.
Vegas, Minnesota.
We don't even need to say who it is. We don't even need to say who it is.
I like it. Okay.
It could be any fucking team. Vegas.
Dustin's going Minnesota in 4 next.
Minnesota in 4.
Right now, Vegas in 5. Vegas in 5. Fleury wants another cup.
Are you sure about that?
I did call him yesterday. He didn't return my call, but he did send me a text message back.
Okay. Good. Connor, go ahead.
I have Vegas in 6. Actually, I had them in 5, and I scribbled it out and put 6. I don't know why. It was one of those where I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I just felt like it.
Your gut's always right. Your gut's always right.
But was my gut saying 5 or was it saying 6? Because I wrote down 5 first.
That's why I did so shitty on tests.
Trust your instinct. I'm like,
never change your first answer.
Yeah, exactly. Well, like the funny thing is, every time, I got Vegas in 5, but every time that every time that I took a test and like I thought that it was the wrong answer, and then I got another crossed off another one, and they were like, oh, well, you got to trust your gut. And I'm like, well, I don't know what my gut was saying. My gut doesn't have a voice. I don't know. But yes, those are the picks.
Let's go.
I like it. I think we're pretty similar here. I think people will be pretty similar across the board with these. I don't think that there's any, all right, if you take a look at it right now, people will pick pretty close to what we picked, maybe a few things here or there. No crazy surprises, but I can see there being some big surprises that were just wrong, and that's why I'm excited for playoffs.
I mean,
Yeah.
Last year I did
Game
good in
7.
the first round, but I think everyone fell apart in the second and third, if I recall correctly.
You were damn
Yeah.
near perfect in last year's.
In the first, it was
In the
like
first.
in the first, and then after that, it all went to fucking hell in a handbasket.
Well, I don't know. I picked Tampa to win it all, and
Did
I
you?
did pretty well. Yeah.
All
I think
right.
I picked Tampa to win it.
One thing
Yeah.
though, boys, before we
Connor and I are always in sync.
fuck both of you.
Yeah.
One thing before we kick it over to Daniella. I want to talk about I hear your guys' idea on the Canadian League. So what's going to happen? Because I saw something in the league news saying they're waiting for Canada to say, can the players come over and play in the United States? And they're going to play at like a hockey rink that doesn't have a playoff team. So hopefully Detroit.
You talking so the Canadian divisions?
Yes. So
Okay.
Like whoever comes.
starting
like,
the Stanley
for
Cup. Yep. Starting
Okay.
the semifinals, there's going to be one Canada team, right? So they have to come to the United States, but Canada's already saying that if you come to Canada, you have to have a 14-day quarantine. So they're trying to figure out if that's still a thing or how that has to work. So do you guys think is Canada coming over here, or what do you think that's going to happen?
Man, I have no idea.
If it stays how it is right now, I think they have their work cut out for them. I think they're probably hoping that, especially with the latest news and how things are moving and progressing in a positive manner, like they might be holding out hope and talking to Canadian, whoever the officials or regulations or whoever makes that, to say like, hey, how are we looking? Like, do we need to start like really planning, or are we probably in a couple of weeks?
Well, they said they wanted an answer by
idea.
the end of June, or the end of May, excuse me, the beginning of June.
So I mean, so they got a couple weeks.
2 weeks.
They're probably going to wait on every single minute of that just to
Yeah.
see how everything looks, because that would be great if they could go back and forth without that 14.
They're going to be doing a war room every
So,
day.
One other thing. So none of the Canadian teams have had fans in their stadium.
Right.
At any point in time. So just something to throw that out there. And one thing they're talking about is one of the provinces that are kind of like, I don't know about it, is not in the running. It might make it easier to make the decision.
Province,
thank you. Providence, Rhode Island.
Yeah.
Great college. That'll be that's even more of for the players. They probably want to get out of that first and second round for them, just to play in front of some fans. That would be awesome for them for the first time, especially. Can you imagine like McDavid coming down and playing against I don't know how I don't think this would happen. Oh, it could, playing against like Tampa or Florida, and have a packed barn.
He's gonna catch a tan there too.
Yeah, right. And like a non-traditional market, or playing anywhere for that matter. I mean, anywhere in the U.S. now, hopefully we'll have, depending on the regulations, have a packed barn, and that'll be sweet, especially in the Stanley Cup.
Nashville's pushing for like full capacity.
Florida's open.
Yeah.
So
they
have.
We'll
I'm
see.
just talking about the other, but yeah, we'll see.
No.
It's going to be interesting to see things unfold. In both aspects, I guess. The actual games, it's the games themselves, and with what's going to happen for later rounds. So,
do you know what whatever it is for Boston and Washington? Where's that game at today? It's got to be in Boston. No, Washington. Washington's a 2 seed. I wonder how many fans they'll have at that game, just because I want to see some playoff. That's the first playoff game. I want to see some fans in their ridiculous manner, like
their
having
playoff noise
and banging on the glass,
absolutely,
shoot the puck and all that stuff. But either way, anyway, anything else before we kick it over?
No, I don't think so. Let's kick over to Danielle.
Yep. Our next guest is the digital host at LCA. She does pregame shows with the Red Wings and with the Tigers. She's the co-host with Ken Kal on the Forecheck and many other shows. And please welcome to the Wing Sauce Podcast, Daniella Bruce. Thank you very much for joining us.
I'm so excited to be here, you guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. We this is now our second person in a row that has been a part of, Ken Daniels is part of the Bally Sports family, but it's still the Red Wings family too, right? So
yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. And now that the season's over, we have lots to discuss for sure.
We do. There's so much that happened this year in such a little bit of time too. It's pretty crazy.
Right. Yeah. But it's trending in the right direction though, for sure. Because last year we all said it was rough to watch. And I'm sure for you, it must have been tough.
Yeah, it was tough, but I think, like you said, trending in the right direction is what we needed this season. And I think that's exactly what we got. If you look at the stats compared to last year and then this year's stats, everything is better. Goals against average, goals for average, everything's a little bit better and headed in the right direction. And at the very end of the season, I'd say probably the last 11, 12 games, the Red Wings really showed some promise. And I was really encouraged by what I saw. And you have to remember, I don't want to make excuses because every team across the league had to deal with COVID-19 and
Right.
different protocols and people missing games. But the Red Wings at one point had 5 people on the protocol list, and they were great players. Robbie Fabry, Philip Zadina, like big guys, big names. And from there, the injuries kind of started to trickle in. Tyler Bertuzzi missed most of the season, and Dylan Larkin was battling an injury that we now know about. And it's just, they didn't really have their full healthy team. So I find myself wondering what it would have been like if we actually saw the roster that Steve Yzerman put together last offseason.
Yeah, it must have been really frustrating for him to watch. He's like, man, we have this pandemic going on, so that I already have that going, and then now my whole team's falling apart. What's going on here? But it must have been nice to see at least, some, it definitely wasn't as bad as last season. And I mean, we have some more questions for you kind of about the future, and we'll talk a little bit about that later on, but I kind of wanted to bring it back to the beginning. I did a little bit of digging.
Oh, no.
And so no, it's all good stuff. So we're all Spartan fans here, and you went to Michigan State. So Sparty on. Now you graduated with a sports journalism degree. Is that right?
So I did do all of the sports journalism classes, but my technical degree is actually electronic news, which is broadcast journalism. So I took all of the broadcasting classes.
Okay. So at what point did you know, like, this is what I want to get into?
This is going to sound really cheesy and cliche, but I've always known that I wanted to be a sports broadcaster. I think
Since you were like 2?
Okay, 2 is probably a stretch, but we'll say middle school. Okay.
Yeah,
when I could actually comprehend what I was doing and what was going on. But back in the day, we had those little broadcasts that would go out throughout the school, like your afternoon announcements or whatever. And that was my jam. Those afternoon announcements all the time.
Really?
I loved it. I had
That's
teachers
great.
that told me back then that I needed to try to go into this as a career. So I guess I just took their word, and I was like, you know what? I really don't like anything else. I don't know what else I would want to do for a living aside from talking sports. So yeah, I just went with it, and I guess it worked out.
Yeah,
no kidding.
I gotta ask, is hockey and baseball too, but are those kind of the top of the list there? I mean, what sports or what variety, when you were in middle school, let's say this is kind of the direction you wanted to go, did you have an idea of where, the chips would fall? I guess you wouldn't, but is this the direction that you wanted to go in that hockey space?
To be honest with you, no. I would have never thought that I'd be working in hockey. I've always followed the Red Wings, obviously being from the Detroit area. It's just something that you do. I've always watched hockey. I've always known the game, but football was my number one priority. I was like, I really want to get into football. I want to be Aaron Andrews. That's what who doesn't want to be Aaron Andrews, but that's what I said I wanted to do. But when the opportunity rolled around with the Red Wings, it was like, I have to do it. And now I love hockey. I don't see myself going to another sport if the opportunity presented itself, but I think hockey is number one now.
And we were all spoiled growing up with those Wings. Oh my gosh. It was ridiculous. And then you probably switched to hockey once you realized, man, I would have to cover the Lions. Like,
that and the off season in hockey is summer. So that's pretty nice, right?
Yeah,
especially living in Michigan.
Oh yeah, for sure. No. So when you were at MSU, did you cover like the football team there? Did you cover any of the teams there?
I did quite a few different sports at MSU. So when I was a junior and senior, I was a part of the student newscast called Focal Point, which it basically was just like your normal news station. We tried to emulate a local news station as well as we could. So we had a whole sports section, and I would cover different sports. I did field hockey a little bit, which was crazy. I still don't fully understand, but I did baseball. I've done softball. I did football a few times, basketball. Yeah, I think I covered almost every sport, swimming and diving, anything you can think of.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was like the toughest one where you were like, I don't really know what to say here?
It was probably field hockey, because and swimming and diving is tough too, because if you don't know exactly what's going on, it's hard to you can't really learn on the fly, if that makes any sense. It's really tough to learn, but they were fun. I enjoyed doing all of them.
it's like, oh, he's doing a backstroke or
right. Or that was a really pretty dive, but I have no idea what kind of dive it was or how many points that's worth. I don't know.
And see, if I'm someone like that, I'm gonna be like, oh, here's a young little Michael Phelps here or something like that. You know, because that's the only swimmer that I know. Who was the other guy that was like pretty good? I forget his name.
Lochte,
Ryan Lochte. Yeah.
Me throwing my swimming hat and
there you go, guys.
Yeah, look at the
That's all you
knowledge.
need to know.
But you don't want to ever compare anyone to Lochte because he's a total airhead. But yeah.
Yeah, a few instances. Yeah, Mexico, I think, rubbed in the wrong way.
You know, he's allowed to be an airhead if he got all those gold medals.
Yes.
So
there you go.
pretty good.
Can't have it all, right?
Yeah. Exactly. So when you graduated from MSU, did you get the job with well, I guess you kind of walk us through what happened and how it ended up with the Red Wings.
Sure. So I graduated in 2016 from Michigan State, and I started off working for State Champs high school sports show. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but it used to run on Fox Sports Detroit. They have recently switched to an all digital platform, which is it's still really cool. So I covered Michigan high school sports across the entire state. Football season was the biggest one. Obviously, I was out every Friday night, and I absolutely loved covering high school sports, for the record. It's a different feeling, you know, professional athletes talking to the media. It's kind of part of their job, right? They know they have to do it. But when you get to talk to a high school athlete, they are so excited to talk to you. They think you're the biggest thing on the planet, and they have so much fun with it. So I really enjoyed covering high school sports. So I covered I think 2017. Yeah. So from 2016 to 2017, I was working just State Champs, which was freelance. And then in 2017, I interviewed for the Red Wings job. And I'm sure you guys are familiar with Carly Johnston, who is the other Red Wings host. We actually interviewed for the same position. So I interviewed for Carly's job originally. She obviously ended up getting that job. And they told me, they were like, we still really like you and we want to keep you on board. We don't really know exactly what we're going to do, though. And I was kind of like, okay, I'll take it. That's sure. And it turned into my pregame and intermission show, which I absolutely love. That show's like my baby. And then it stemmed into the forecheck and everything else that I do. And the Red Wings hired me full-time in 2018. And that's when I kind of cut the ties with State Champs. So yeah, that's pretty much it. It was a crazy ride. And it's weird to think back and think that I was the second choice in a strange way, but now Carly and I are friends. We get along great and we work together, and it all worked out in the end.
It's almost like you guys started off as like enemies and then became buddies, right?
Yeah. So, and you know, with this industry, enemy is a strong word because everyone I've met is so nice and helpful. Everybody wants everyone else to do well. You know what I mean? You're always rooting for the other people.
Right. So,
I got to say, I mean, Carly's one of my good friends too, and I'm going to force her to come on here.
Make her. Make her.
And I'm going to say that, you forced her. You're helping me have her come on as well. But no, that's great. She's, if I'm not mistaken, she's kind of going through a rehab stint right now. I just saw her. So,
she's on the injured list too, man. Everyone.
IR. I was going to say, you didn't say that she was part of on the IR list when you were talking about the injuries with the Red Wings.
Daniella put her there.
No, went down a ski hill that she should not have went down on when it was warm out.
Fair warning.
I know her sentiments on skiing. Last time I was skiing, I did like 4 flips down the hill. So
she's doing well though, actually.
Unintentionally.
As we speak, she's working the Tigers game. So this is her first Tigers game back. So she's coming back slowly but surely.
Surely strong.
Perfect.
Nice.
Very cool.
There you go.
Yeah, a fun little story about Carly at Connor's wedding. She sat at my table and I was getting like super drunk. And,
oh no.
And so she kept trying to feed me waters and I'm like, no, I'm good. And she finally found my wife and gave her like a huge thing of water. And I'm like, what is this? And she goes, this girl over here gave it to me to give to you. And I'm like, oh, I don't want it.
Yelling it back at Carly. Take it back. That's hilarious.
Yeah. So working with the Red Wings, like your first gig there, was it the kind of like the digital host, or is that you worked your way up to that?
Yeah. Like I said, my position's actually totally crazy. So I have my technical position is game presentation coordinator, which means I work with our game presentation manager to coordinate.
Sounds
everything.
Amazing.
Oh yeah. It's everything that happens on the video board and that you see, like if we have a special puck drop, obviously that didn't happen this season with the lack of fans in the building. But most seasons, if we have like a Hockey Fights Cancer and we have an honorary puck dropper honoring military members that we normally do, that's all something our department would handle. So I have that side of my job. And then I edit and shoot too. So I can shoot and edit. I do that a lot of hypes that you see. I don't know. Okay. I'm going to do it on this podcast too, because I have to. You guys have heard the woo thing, right? I don't know if you're woo.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
If you're woo
We've asked
haters,
about that.
I apologize if you're woo haters, but that was totally me. So
No, I love it.
Oh,
Yeah.
I just didn't get it.
my
first.
wife's
have
my wife's not a fan. So
it
I'll
was
tell her.
the weirdest thing. So it's actually my boss who said, we need a wrestling hype, like, a WWE hype video, a montage.
Oh, like
So-
Ric Flair.
Yes. So that's how
Yeah.
it came together. I was like, okay, well, I know nothing about wrestling. So I started just like YouTubing videos and finding all the big guys. And obviously Ric Flair is one of them. So his woos made it into the video. We never expected the woo to stick like that. It was never meant to happen that way. It was all just a fun wrestling hype.
Yeah.
And yeah, so then it stuck, and I take credit for it. I will take full credit for it.
It's like so we've texted each other like, do you guys hear that? It's like in the final like 3 minutes of the game, we're down like four rip, and it's like the fans are woo, like
That was the point of it. It got the crowd into it when the
Yeah,
hockey
yeah.
game was not keeping them in it. We needed
Yeah.
something.
No, it's genius, and I hope that sticks around, because I've been to games at Bridgestone. Their fans are crazy, but they don't have anything like that.
Yeah.
I feel like that would be a cool little new tradition to start, because
Hey,
No.
it's carried over to some Tigers games too. I've heard it at Comerica Park
Oh.
quite a bit.
Oh,
so that was you too.
Yeah. Yes. Sorry, you guys are getting. We just got a puppy, and she's causing some behind me right now. So.
no worries.
Yeah.
So
I'm
you
Yeah, you are in the feed, Vince. I can see you on the ground with the puppy.
Love it. Wait, well, let's hear about the
That's a
puppy.
good look. That's a good look.
How's it going with the puppy? What kind of puppy is it?
She's a boxer. She's 10 weeks old. She's pretty cute, but she's a little terror. She chews everything, so that's good.
how old?
10 weeks.
10 weeks.
Oh, fresh.
Very fresh. Yeah, we've only
Yeah.
had her for like 3 weeks now.
Dang. So
Yeah.
you're not getting a lot of sleep at night?
Actually, that's when she's the best. She sleeps all night, but she is crazy during the day. Getting anything done that I need to get done is impossible, but sleeping's all right.
Oh my gosh.
It gets worse because my dog's 10 months and he like wants to play all the time. So I
Oh.
remember that. I'm just kidding. It
Oh,
doesn't
wait.
get worse, but it's more energetic.
Yeah, you're not convincing me now. You already said it.
She's like, there's no warranty on this thing anyway. So
Yeah.
can't take it back.
Yeah, can't give her back. It's all right.
Yeah. So going back to the Red Wings, you've had the chance to chat with past and present
Mhm.
players, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I was checking out your Instagram. It looks like Todd Bertuzzi, Darren McCarty, Nick Lidstrom.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. So talk a little bit about that. Like what are some of the most like notable names and most notable moments you've had with those people?
Well, we kind of got a little sidetracked there, but yeah, you asked if my first role with the Red Wings was the pregame and intermission.
Oh, yeah.
Actually. So it wasn't
About that.
the digital. It's okay. I did too, but this actually leads in perfectly. So,
Okay.
it was just the pregame and intermission show to start off. Right. And the very first game at Little Caesars Arena was my very first game. I always tell myself I'm going to go back and watch this tape, but I don't know if I can do it because it would probably be the most embarrassing thing I've ever watched. But they threw me out there with Nick Lidstrom on the first night, my first night ever hosting this show. My palms were so sweaty. I have never been so nervous to be around someone in my whole life. And they're so cool. Hockey guys are just so relatable. He
Mhm.
made me feel so comfortable with everything. He was super nice, super great. And he was back for the last opening night that we had. So that would have been 2019, I think. Yes, 2019. And he was great, talked to me, remembered everything, remembered me and my
He did.
name and all of that. So it's crazy to think that they just, they remember you, they care.
Mhm.
And then the first host that I had, who was like a more permanent host, was Chris Chelios, which was also really cool. I got to know him really well. We still keep in contact a little bit. He's over in Chicago now, obviously, but
Oh, nice.
yeah, so that was really cool. And Darren McCarty. He's like the friendliest guy on the planet. I'm sure you guys know that. Yeah, he's great to be around. Fans absolutely love him, and he brings so much energy. I need to take some of his energy and bottle it up sometimes and hopefully borrow it because it's a lot. And he loves everything he sees from the Red Wings right now too. They've all been really fun to work with. I can't even pick one that stands out the most.
Oh yeah, no, he's like the biggest cheerleader for the Red Wings, like for real. Like he came on what, guys, about a year ago, a little over a year ago.
One of our
Yeah,
first
about a year.
guests.
Yeah. And so when he came on, he was talking about, the like how much trust as an Yzerman, not just because he played with him, but he just knows the type of person that he is. And he just said that everything's going to be okay. He's like, there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that we're going to be back to greatness. So
Yeah, I agree with him. I mean, look at everything that Steve Yzerman has done already. I mean, from the little things, like even Adam Ernie, we talk about this all the time, because when Yzerman traded for Adam Ernie originally, everyone was kind of like, Adam
it was
Ernie,
a head scratcher. Yeah.
It was like, and he's whatever, he's not bad, but he's not very good. And then this season, it's like he came out of nowhere. So
different guy. Yeah.
Like little moves like that. And the Robbie Fabry trade was obviously a great one too. And he dealt Jacob De La Rose for Robbie Fabry. So you look back on that and it's like, man, how did you make that
trade?
Yeah. And then this year, dropping the bomb of trading Anthony Mantha and getting Jacob Verana and 2 draft picks in return, and Richard Panik. So it's like, he's really, really talented. And we always say on our show, Art Regner's as a co-host, he always says that Steve Yzerman might end up being a better general manager than he was a player, which is very high regard.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. So have you had the chance to talk with Steve at all?
I have not had a sit-down conversation with Steve, but I have met him a few times. Again, super cool. His offices are on the same floor as ours, so you do run into them occasionally. Obviously, This year, again, was very different with the protocols that had to be in place from COVID and all of the new rules. But yeah, he's around, and he's a very friendly guy as well.
He seems like he's intimidating. Like he doesn't really smile that often.
Yeah, he's a little intimidating, but once
Yeah.
he'll always talk to you too. I do have one cool Steve Yzerman story where I fangirled a little bit. It was opening night, his first game as general manager of the Red Wings, and we get little pins, like, tie, what are they called? Just lapel pins every opening night, and they're just a little winged wheel. And I was wearing a dress, so I couldn't pin it wouldn't have worked. I wouldn't have been able to wear the pin. So we were in the elevator after the game, and I was with like my manager, a couple other people, and some of the management staff, including Steve. And I looked at my manager and I said, "Oh, remind me to grab a pin tomorrow. I couldn't put it on my dress, and so I forgot to grab it." Steve literally took his pin off his jacket and handed it to me and said, "I have a million of these. You take this one." And they get like special pins that are all silver. There's no red in them. So I have like one of the cool kid.
Wow.
Pins. Yeah. That was one of my cool moments. And I had to just play it cool and be like, "Wow, thank you. I really appreciate it." And after, I was kind of freaking out a little bit.
Yeah.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah.
Shake his hand. "Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it." But after you turn around, you're like,
I was. When we got out of the elevator, my manager just looked at me and he was like, "Don't even say anything." I'm like,
It's like, it's my very good friend.
Yeah, what a guy. Who was that?
Yeah, Steven.
Yeah, but I feel like I did the same thing when we had Darren McCarty on. He was my favorite player when I was growing up, and I had met him a couple times, like just very short things. But when he came on, it was so cool to just get those stories firsthand. And like the whole time, I'm just like, and he can't see me, I was just like, we were just, yeah. Luckily, he couldn't see. I don't know if I would have been ready for that anyway, but because it would have been a special moment. I would have had to like, do my hair perfect and probably wear a suit.
Yeah. I don't think he would have required a suit.
Play it smart.
Mac would not care if you had a suit on or not.
Dress to impress.
He's certainly a guy that can take the conversation too, Tyler, when you're talking about McCarty and you ask one question and then you're
as long as you have one question prepared, you can fill your podcast.
Yeah, there goes 45
that's like
minutes.
Ken. It's like Ken too. We asked Ken about goaltending, or the first thing was Phil Peronic, and he brought up he's like, "Oh yeah, just pulls out all these stats like, oh, he hasn't scored on a goalie since January of 2019. We're like, or 2020. We're like, whoa. And like, he just kept talking and talking. We're like, we just have to keep asking questions and just have him,
fill in the blank, if you will. It's like a Mad Lib.
Exactly. So,
I got a question. So
yeah, go ahead.
Danielle, what's your favorite segment that you've done with the Red Wings so far?
That's a tough one because we do a lot. We have done a lot. And I don't know if you guys have seen any of our training camp or development camp coverage, but that is some of my favorite things to do. It's just everybody's energy is at an all-time high, right? Because you're looking forward to a new season. Training camp's really exciting. And hopefully for this year's training camp, we're going to see guys like Maurice Sider here. Lucas Raymond will probably be here, which will be extremely hyped. So those are always fun to do. But I think my everyday favorite segment to do would be the forecheck. And as I mentioned to you guys before, I edit, I do all of that stuff too. So the forecheck's kind of like my baby again. I produce all of that. Basically, I decide what we're going to talk about. I work with our graphics team to create the graphics. I cut the sound from the locker room earlier that day and highlights too. So I really take that into my own. And then obviously I can't produce it while I'm in the host chair, but I get some help from our game producer who helps me with that. But it's just, like I said, my baby. So that's definitely my favorite. I love hosting with Ken Kal. I love Art Regner too. So don't tell him I said that the forecheck was my favorite, but yeah, it's something that it's just been fun. And we really took it and ran with it when we were given the opportunity. So that's definitely, and I like that it's a little shorter too. It's like a 15-minute max preview of the game that night, and it seems to do pretty well.
Now, were you ever a part of, like, I've been to games where they have people, you know, they have the microphones and they go into the crowd and they ask them trivia questions or whatever. Have you come across like a super embarrassing, like somebody who just like didn't know anything, and like, do you have any stories like that?
Well, Carly does most of that for the Red Wings. And honestly, Red Wings fans are pretty smart for the most part. We go into it and we get somebody, and, you know, we're not going to put someone up there that will totally not know anything either. Like if we go to pick someone and they're like, I have no idea anything about anything, we'd be like, okay, we'll probably pick somebody else to do it. But I have not seen anything terrible. The one time I filled in for Carly for, I think it was just the Michigan State duel in the D game. I think the hockey game at Little Caesars Arena.
Oh, that's cool.
I let a fan talk into the mic, and he just, like, I've never heard a louder "Go Green" in my whole life. His face like turned bright red, and I was like, "Whoa, all right." Definitely a little drinking going on at that game too. But no, I haven't seen anything crazy. Everybody's been pretty good, so I have no horror stories in that front.
At least it was just a Go Green instead of like,
could have been any,
it could have been worse.
Could have been way worse.
I think you can get some funny ones, and when you go to the games and it's intermission or whatever, and they do like the tricycle races and things like that, or like the
bumping balls.
Ball. Yeah, those are the best.
Yeah.
So those, I think, like as a fan, you know, obviously I miss going to the rink and watching hockey, but you know, those things and watching like the mini mites play between the first and second, like those are great. Yeah, and I can't wait to get back in.
We've got some great youth hockey interviews before. Like Carly will normally grab like the MVP of the little scrimmage and do some kid interviews, and they're pretty funny. Those are good.
Do you guys also, like, you know, the pizza boxes? Do you guys like toss those out to people?
Yeah.
I don't remember. Well, I guess if it was you would remember this, but someone was tossing the pizza box and literally this chick missed it and it piped her right in the forehead.
Oh my God.
That's happened plenty of times too. Or people go to catch the box and they miss it and then it bounces off their hands and falls down like 10 rows. And luckily the pizza boxes are empty. I have got that question before. Is there actually pizza in the pizza boxes? I was like, no. Do you see what happens to those pizza boxes?
I'd like it better if there was pizza.
If it was, though.
Exactly. Throwing hot.
Don't even throw the boxes. Just straight up pizza. Just throw
slices.
Pizza at people.
I would be good with that.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of talking about it right now, just, you know, fan atmosphere in the game. How is the season without fans? How did that change? I guess, first of all, the atmosphere, I would imagine it's way different when you're actually doing your job there. And then watching games, and then just more to your day-to-day, and then looking forward to the future. I mean, that's got to be exciting, getting fans back in the rink. It's going to change, again, your day-to-day and some different things you're working on.
Yeah, it was weird, especially they had 750 in there, obviously midway through the season or whatever it was. But before that, when it was just friends and family, it was quiet. It was like eerily quiet. And you could hear everything out on the ice too, which was actually kind of cool because in a normal atmosphere, you can't really hear the guys talking. You can't hear what they're saying. And sometimes you can't make out what they're saying, but you could hear them. And it was definitely interesting in that sense. And you could hear them cheering when they scored. Normally you just hear like the goal horn the whole time, but you could hear some different things that were going on the ice, which was cool. But yeah, the atmosphere it was hard to bring energy like we normally do. And my job didn't change much, except for the fact that we were streaming out to our second screen experience. And it wasn't just in arena stuff. But I can tell you, I miss the fans. When it went up to 750, for some reason, it felt full. I was like, oh my gosh, at least there's some energy here in the stands. And I'm really looking forward to having everybody back because we've talked about it already. This team's making strides. It's exciting to be there. Fans are going to be pumped next season. So hopefully we're back to having a full capacity and all of our fans can witness all of it.
So I actually attended a game with the 750 fans, and one thing I noticed that was interesting was the crowd noise they pumped in, even though there was a crowd there, and it's in the arena. So was that something kind of weird to get used to, hearing all that like fake crowd noise, if you will?
It was very hard to get used to, and for our guys that are running it, it was harder for them too, because at the beginning of the season, you can see the improvement they made. It would be almost like too delayed at the beginning of the season. So something would happen, and then like 5 seconds later, it'd be like, oh, or like something like that. But they got really good at reading the game and knowing when they needed the sound. So at the end of the season, I hardly even noticed it, which is, I think, a good thing.
Yeah. Were there any computer generated woos?
We didn't computer generate any woos, but we had some woos. When we played that video, people were still wooing. They were wooing.
So, I'm sorry, Dustin, were you going to ask one more thing? Okay.
No, you're good.
So since we'll get back a little bit too, because I have some questions about, Ken Kal and everything too, but I just wanted your thoughts, first of all, kind of on the future of the Red Wings, just because, you've had the chance to, or I guess, I don't know if you've had the chance to talk with prospects, but, you're in the know, obviously, right? So I just wanted you to talk a little bit about that.
The praise for Moritz Seider, that's where I'm going to start, is where all of my excitement stems from. We have on the Word on Woodward, we have a guest that comes on who covers the NHL, but he's in Sweden. So he covers the NHL from there, but he's also covering the SHL too. And we have him come on to give us an update about some of our players, because if you try to find the updates, most of them are written in Swedish, and it's difficult. But he told me on the show that Moritz Seider is the best defenseman he's ever seen at this age. And he's seen guys like Nick Lidstrom and Victor Hedman come through in the SHL. So as 18-year-old, 19-year-old kids, he thinks Moritz Seider is the best that he's ever seen. I've heard a few times that he's the best defenseman in the whole world that's not in the NHL right now. So there's a lot of hype around him, and I'm really excited to see if he can translate that. I would hope he makes the Red Wings roster last year. Again, obviously I have no inside information. We were joking on the show today that if anybody can get in Steve Yzerman's head, we will pay them big money to figure out what he's thinking. So, but I think there's a good chance we'll see him in a Red Wings uniform next year. Maybe if it's not right after training camp for the start of the season, it will be sometime throughout the season, but he's super exciting. Lucas Raymond had an elbow injury, so he hasn't played much. But again, high praise for him. He's a goal scorer. And Albert Johansson, who was drafted in 2018, I believe, or maybe it was 2019, second or third round. He's a defenseman too. Nick Lidstrom had some high praise for him. So I would definitely keep your eye out on him too. But there's just so many prospects we have right now. We saw Joe Veleno make his NHL debut, and he looks like he fit in. He didn't do anything spectacular. He scored his first NHL goal, but he definitely looked like he belonged. And the strides that we've seen, Michael Rasmussen, Gustav Lindstrom, even Dennis Cholowski has taken some really good strides in the right direction. Philip Hronek, as you guys were talking about, Steve Yzerman seems pretty impressed with all of those guys too. So I think the future is definitely bright. And I can't leave Philip Zadina out of that one too. I kind of grouped him in the permanent Red Wing category now, but he definitely made some strides in his game as well. His defensive game was better. I'm sure if you asked him, he'd want to find the score sheet a little bit more, but he's definitely a better 200-foot player. And I think there is so much to be excited about heading into next year.
Yeah, I think most of the Red Wings are in the camp of, man, I'm used to scoring goals my entire life.
Yeah,
I need to get back into that, because they're playing high school or AAA or major junior, and they get 60 goals and have 130 points, and now they're on this team that's struggling right now, and man, they need goals, and I think that'll come next year and hopefully in the years beyond that. But luckily we had some decent goaltending to back that up, and we were in every game for the most part.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting situation too, with Jonathan Bernier being an unrestricted free agent. So it'll be interesting to see what Steve does there, whether he decides to re-sign him or maybe go for a younger goaltender. I don't know how you let Bernier walk after the season he had, though. They were a good tandem, so we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, it's kind of both of them. It was tough, really tough for Greiss to carry that load. When we had Ken on just recently, he was mentioning that Greiss couldn't catch a break.
Mm-hmm. He had no goal support for the longest time. He was
100%.
He was battling. He might let in 2 goals, which isn't terrible, right? But they were giving up,
They were only scoring 1.6 goals a game.
Exactly.
For a
They
while.
were, their goals for average was terrible at the beginning of the season in that stretch where Bernier was hurt and Grice was, like you said, kind of hung out to dry a few times.
He was like a really good pitcher without any run support. And it's
Exactly.
you look at his record being like 1-12, as like a pitcher. If you're 1-12, you're like, man, what happened? But his ERA is at like 1.
Yeah.
And he's kind of similar to that, where they lose maybe a 2-1 game or a 2-0 game, and then you look at the stats and he 43 saves, and like the Red Wings had 23 shots. It's like, well, that's tough as a goalie, but
Right.
I think they did really well. But yeah, it's hard to look when you just look at the stats or just look at win-loss column.
Yeah, even with his play at the end of the season, which was way better, he shut out 2 shutouts in a row. He still didn't really have that much goal support. That the Red Wings just didn't score a lot this season, and that's one of their issues heading into the offseason. But Thomas Grice, he really stepped it up at the end there. And I mean, his save percentage wasn't very good. He ended with an above 900 save percentage. He kept the Red Wings in games. So did Jonathan Bernier, and I think that's all you can ask for a goaltending duo that's trying to help out a rebuilding team.
Yeah. Now, I imagine that you probably talk a little bit about some players that may have disappointed you guys during the season too. Kind of, maybe not disappointed is not the right word, but didn't really hit
higher
expectations.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And one of those in mind, I guess I'd say Larkin. He was named captain, and even though I'm not going to be harsh on him, I thought that he played very well for the majority of the season, and he doesn't really have a ton of help around him. Again, we talked about Mantha underperforming in the beginning of the season, and then Tyler Bertuzzi getting hurt. That doesn't help. So I mean, are there any other players that you can think of that kind of didn't really live up to expectations this year?
I think Dylan Larkin would be the number one. You nailed it, but I think there's a lot that goes into it. Like you mentioned, he was named captain, so he's probably adding a little pressure on himself once you're wearing the C, and he has the pressure already, whether he's wearing the C or not, of being a number 1 center. And maybe Dylan Larkin's not a number 1 center, and I don't think he lacks the talent. We know he has the talent. He was also battling this injury all season long too. He wasn't very healthy all season, which as a captain, he's going to try to push through for his teammates. And without Tyler Bertuzzi and Anthony Mantha had a tough year too. He didn't play well, if you want to say that. I know he's not a Red Wing anymore, but he was disappointing for a little while at the beginning of the season. And for him, he just needed a change of pace and new scenery, and he's doing awesome in Washington. But I think, again, circling back to having a fully healthy team, because the roster that Steve Yzerman put together last offseason only played, I seriously think it might have been 1 game at the beginning of the season, because Bobby Ryan missed the first game. So then the second game, they were all together. And then after that, Tyler Bertuzzi was getting injured. They had Robbie Fabry, Philip Zadina on COVID protocol. I think John Merrill was on COVID protocol too. And there was just a lot that went into it that I don't think any of the cards fell the right way for Dylan Larkin. So I don't think, you're right, he didn't produce the way you want Dylan Larkin to produce, but I think there's so many other things that played into it that you can't hold this year against him, and he hopefully comes out and has a killer year next year.
Yeah,
and I think though, when you look at Larkin and you look at a centerman, number 1 centerman on any team, and you go across the league and you look at a number 1 center, a number 1 line, and then you compare that to the wingers that the Red Wings have, and it's not any fault. We have a lot of young guys, but there's literally no comparison unless you're looking at the other worst teams in the league. So if you want to look at when Larkin came into the league and when people were really excited about him and everything like that, and you look at who he was on a line with, that line is completely opposite of the line that he was with for most of the season. This is given the experience and given, like, he was playing with some Hall of Famers at that point when he came into the league. So it's really difficult. And then when he did play with some really good guys, he's putting up some really high numbers. So, I mean, he's still a younger guy. He's been in the league for a while, but it gives him a bad rap. And that's why it's unfortunate that people are just looking at numbers and not looking at the whole picture. Because, man, you can really look at half the other teams in the league and look, they got like all-star players playing on their number 1 line.
And another thing with Dylan Larkin is he's trying to teach some of these younger guys too, you have to remember. So part of the season he's playing with Philip Zadina. He played with Evgeny Svechnikov. His line changed pretty much every single night. It was somebody different that he's playing with. And how do you have any time to gel at that point? You know what I mean? So it really was him that was trying to hold all of it together there. And I think he did a good job. I know, like I said, you want Dylan Larkin to produce more. He's your guy, right? But he had a lot of other responsibilities involved with some of the COVID regulations and making sure everybody was also following those and battling an injury on top of all of it. So I think he's going to bounce back next season. And I don't think it's something we should be worried about.
Right. And I think that, we've discussed it too. Like Connor mentioned, it's very, it's so easy for someone to just pull up stats and be like, oh, he didn't have a good year and look at that. But when you look at his overall game from his rookie season till now, what is it? His fourth full season? Was that his fourth full season or fifth?
I want to say fifth. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. That could be wrong, but I think it's fifth.
But the type of two-way player he is now compared to what he was you can't even compare it. Yeah, absolutely. Right. So yeah, and you're right, Daniella, you mentioned you it's not necessarily he didn't do well, you just want him to do better. You know what I mean? And
he has the highest expectations on this team, and the team's not the team's not good right now. They're rebuilding. And when you have a good player sometimes playing on a not so good team, they're not going to excel the way you'd want them to. Like I said before, look at Anthony Mantha. He wasn't really excelling here in Detroit. He just needed better surroundings. And that could be said for a bunch of different teams. But when this team gets good, I'm telling you, Dylan Larkin's going to be good. Philip Zadina is going to produce more than he's already been producing. So I think that has a big thing to do with it.
And like just to not on, this isn't even really Larkin, but you see a lot of these guys that aren't producing as much as you want them to produce. And then when you look at how many points the other really talented people get in the league on a power play, 5, 10, 15 plus points, whether that's 5 goals, 10 assists or whatever. And the Red Wings just didn't have that. And if for a number one guy on the team to not have a full support on specifically the power play, with it changing so much due to injury and just COVID protocols, and really just Yzerman and Blashill wanting to see who's going to be a good fit, who can get points on the power play, who's that guy, you lose out on that opportunity.
Definitely. And I think everything boils down to the fact that there was no time to gel with injuries with COVID protocol. We know how well Anthony Mantha, Tyler Bertuzzi, and Dylan Larkin played together last season, and they barely got any time together this season. And, then Robbie Fabry slides in on the top line and he gets hurt and he has got COVID. And it's just like, man, they could not catch a break. And I think that's a big, big reason Larkin didn't perform the way we all hoped he would.
Yeah. Now, I wanted to bring it back to the forecheck with Ken Kal. So first of all, tell us a little bit about Ken Kal. Obviously, the guy's a legend. He'll always be, a legend within the Red Wings organization. Just talk to us a little bit about what he's like.
Ken Kal is the greatest person ever. I have so much fun working with him. He's so smart. He knows so much about the game of hockey. Obviously, he absolutely loves the Red Wings. And I don't know if you guys know this, he's a diehard Lions fan. Like, if you want to get Ken Kal going, talk about the Lions. It's so fun. And I'm a pretty big Lions fan myself. So him and I have a lot of off-camera discussions about the Lions and what their future looks like. And yeah, so he gets very fired up over the Lions. That's like fun fact about him. He lives in St. Clair Shores too. He spends a lot of time out on the lake. So we talk about that a lot, but he really is just one of the greatest guys. And you call him a legend. And sometimes I have to sit back and think like, wow, I really do work with Ken Kal all the time. And he is a legend in Detroit sports. Like, he loves it. He knows everything about Tigers too. He's called a few Tigers games in his day. So he knows everything about them as well. He's just super smart, teaches me a lot. It's really fun to watch a hockey game with him, because as I mentioned to you guys, I was really big into football in the past, and I've always known the game of hockey, but there was a lot to know about the game of hockey. So every year I feel like I'm learning more. I shouldn't even say every year, every game I watch, I feel like I'm learning something else. And he's a big part of it. And watching games with even Art and DMAC, whoever's up there with me, they'll explain things to me. I work with some really cool people, and Ken Kal is definitely at the top of the list.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Is it, I mean, with the show that you guys have, I mean, how long has that been going? A few years now?
It would be, this was the 3rd season of the Forecheck.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now just for those who might not know, kind of tell us a little bit about the show. Like, what type of topics will you discuss?
Okay, so it's a very quick hitting show. It goes out on all Red Wings social media channels, and eventually it posts to the website too. So we just go over everything you're going to see pretty much in the matchup that night. So we'll open it normally with injuries or any updates we have in the lineup for the Red Wings that night. Talk about anything that happened in the previous game that is worth noting. There were some really great moments this year, despite the Red Wings record. We had a lot to talk about. And then After that, we'll get into whoever the opponent is. That's kind of the meat of the show, is talking more about the opponent, because everybody knows pretty much what's going on with the Red Wings, right? It's who's coming into town. How are they going to have to play them? What are you expecting to see? We talked a lot about the Red Wings when they played 11-7 versus 12-6. That was very interesting to see them making that change a lot. So something that we focused on, but really you're just going to get the ins and outs of that specific matchup with a focus on the opponent, because like I said, sometimes you don't know much about the opponent that's coming in.
Right. Now, do you have a lot of a lot of opportunities to watch other hockey that's going on in the league, like the rest of the teams?
Admittedly, I really focused on the Central Division this year. We were actually talking about that on our Word on Woodward show today, that the playoffs are going to be really interesting because I dabbled in it, whatever was on, NHL Network or NBC, I'd be watching that game, but my main focus was what's going on in the Central Division. So I have to take my blinders off now and start watching the rest of the league. So, but yeah, like I said, admittedly, this year was very Central Division focused, but I'm pumped for the playoffs. The Washington-Boston series is going to be great.
Yeah, so, well, now that we're talking about playoffs, I got to get, do you have a pick for the Stanley Cup? Who do you think is coming out of each division? You don't have to go into too much detail, but who's your team?
I always root for the Avs. I don't know what it is. And I know everyone's going to hate me because of the, Red Wings Avs rival, but I just,
Tyler and I picked that.
Yeah. Nathan McKinnon is so good. Like, they just have a Cale Makar. They're really good. And I think that they're going to make it this year, but they have some tough competition. I mean, Vegas, even in their division, is really good this season. And
that's Dustin's
Vegas.
team.
Yeah. It's so interesting though, because we played in our divisions the entire season. So I can't even tell you what's going to happen in the playoffs. You have no idea how these teams are going to really match up against each other. Right. And I mean, out of the Central Division, Carolina looks really good, but Nashville's tough. I could see Nashville upsetting Carolina. I really could see that.
Oh, I hope not.
I could see it. I really hope not. Then Florida, Tampa Bay. Florida has a chance in that series too. That's another interesting one.
That's going to be a super fun one to watch too, especially how the season is ending for them. With that, was that the last game they played, I think, and they got a little fight right off the bat. And there's a lot of good hockey. And so, okay. So you like the West Coast teams?
I do. I like the Avs. I'm rolling with the Avs. I like them. And
all right.
I don't want to say it, but because another rival, of course, but got a feeling Toronto is going to come out of that Canadian North Division this season.
They hope so.
They hope so. I'd like to see Edmonton, honestly. I mean, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and of course you got to root for Kenny Holland, but I really think Toronto's going to get over their hump this year too. I'm not going to pick them to win it all. I would never do that, but I think they're going to get out of it.
I would never do that.
We know better than that. Their goaltending. I mean, Jack Campbell has been kind of a story for this year, but I don't know if it's kind of an anomaly for a little bit, or maybe he just got on a hot streak. I don't really know, but I don't know if you could ride that all the way to a Stanley Cup.
No, Toronto's going to choke just like they do every year.
All right. I'm down with it. I'll totally take that. You guys talk about goaltending too. And I say that maybe Carolina might get upset, but then I think about their goaltending, and they've got James Reimer, Peter Mrazek, and Alex Nedeljkovic. Maybe they're not, because goaltending is what's going to win you the cup eventually. So maybe they won't be upset.
Nedeljkovic, that's how you pronounce it, Dustin. We were like on paper, and we're like, hard pass. We're not even going to try.
It was funny when we first. I had the same problem when I was first trying to pronounce his name. I was like, "Where's he from? He's got to be from somewhere different, right?"
He's from Ohio.
Yeah, he's literally from Ohio. And I was like, wait a second, he's American? Wow. I totally thought it was going to be like Swedish, Russian, something like that.
That's exactly what Dustin said. And for me and Connor, just to give him shit, we were like, what are you talking about, man? It seems like totally normal.
Yeah, totally normal name. Yeah. So he's really good. He really showed up for Carolina. So, and then of course you have Andrei Vasilevsky too. So I don't know. The playoffs are going to be crazy. That's all I know.
A quick question. I meant to ask this earlier. When you're interviewing players, there's sometimes like a language barrier, right? Mm-hmm. So are there, have you had like any like awkward interviews with anybody? Like, I got through besides this one. Yeah.
Well, there's no language barrier in this one. It's a different type of awkward, but it's sometimes it's tough. I haven't run into it much. Philip Hronix is sometimes tough to interview, but he's a good sport about it, really good sport about it. And oh, that's my dog ringing her bells to go outside. At least she's getting that down, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
But yeah, there hasn't been too many opportunity for me and when it comes to interviewing guys that had the language barrier. Carly was more of the locker room girl. So when you have her on, she's the one that you can ask about that. She's got some great Svechnikov stories. She's got some great Philip Hronix stories. And so she's definitely had to deal with the language barrier a little bit more than I have. But all of our players they're great to interview. Nobody is tough and they have a lot of fun doing it. Actually, Bobby Ryan was one of the best to talk to. So I hope he's back for that purpose too next season. He was a lot of fun to talk to.
Awesome. Well, one quick question about the Lions before we wrap it up.
Oh no.
What are your thoughts on the whole? They did a wholesale change in the front office and everything, and also, what are your thoughts on the Stafford trade?
Well, I'll start with this. Big Matt Stafford fan. I love Matt Stafford. And as sad as I was to see him go, he deserves better. He deserves to win a championship, a Super Bowl. So I hope he does it next season. I hope he gets them far into the playoffs, at least makes a deep run, because I want the Stafford haters here in Detroit to just shut up.
The Rams just got a ton more fans. For sure.
Right. Stafford was not the problem here. And I wish I could tell you what was the problem, but
ownership.
Yeah. And I mean, it is what it is at that point, but I like the call to blow it up. You get rid of Stafford, not get rid of him. That was harsh. You trade Stafford. Jared Goff comes in, who is a very dependable quarterback. He can get the job done, right?
Solid,
he might not be great, but he can get the job done for us. And I like what they did in the draft. I like that they decided not to give Kenny Galladay his big deal. This year might be tough to watch. I'm not going to lie there, but wait, what year isn't tough to watch?
Right.
But at least this year, there is a little bit of direction, and you hope Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes have this thing under control now. And maybe they do. I don't know. I'm going into this season though, not as optimistic as I normally am, because it always breaks my heart a little bit. So I'm being more realistic. I'm being more realistic this season.
It's a rebuild since 52.
Yeah, right. But I'm excited
57,
easy.
57, whatever.
It seems like they put more effort into it this time. They were like, okay, whatever we've got going on here is not working, so let's blow it up and see what we can do.
Yeah.
There's a plan, and that's all you can ask for.
Right.
Now they're going to be eating kneecaps.
So I like that. I love it. Bite kneecaps. Do whatever you got to do to win a couple football games. It doesn't bother me. What did he say too? He doesn't want any turds on his team. No turds. Bite kneecaps. This is good. This is good.
This guy is like he's like a meme generator already. Like t-shirts are going to be made. Like it's already. I love Dan Campbell. I'm a huge fan. I know nothing about him other than he played. Was he a tight end for us?
Yeah, tight end.
A while back.
I think he was on the 0-16 team.
Solid. So he knows he
knows
knows the
the
team that sucks.
He knows what not
ever
to do.
be there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he cares about Detroit too, and I think that's kind of a big thing when you hire a coach to coach here, because it's a tough job. So I think that's a big step in the right direction too. Definitely.
Well, Connor, Dustin, do you guys have anything more you'd like to add?
I don't.
Awesome.
No,
well, Daniella, thank you.
On.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. And where can people find you on social media and stuff like that?
All right. Well, I'm at Daniella Bruce _ because at Daniella Bruce was taken on every social platform when I made my account.
Come on. Are you a blue check mark?
I am not a blue check mark. I've worked my butt off to get there. I'll get there one day.
Talk to Ken.
Yeah.
Well, now you will after being on here.
I know. Exactly. That's why I did it. I was like, oh, they'll give me a blue check. I'll join that podcast for sure.
There you go.
Yeah, but you can follow me. I usually post a lot of Red Wings and Tigers content lately. So that's a lot of fun. But thank you guys for having me. It was really great to chat with you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Of course. Thank you.
Of course.
All right. Daniella, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate you joining the Zoom. Also, thank you, Charlie, for making an appearance. Your dog is mighty cute.
Yes.
Tyler, Connor.
Yeah, I love how Charlie knew when it was time for Daniella to get off, because she was ringing the bells like, hey, enough. Stop talking to these guys. But no, it was great. Hearing her thoughts on the future of the Wings, kind of, her thoughts on this past season and everything. And hearing more about Ken Kal was, I feel like not enough is known about him. So yeah, it was great. Yep. Connor?
Yep. No, likewise, guys. Well said. Yeah, unfortunately, Charlie didn't get to hear my Stanley Cup picks for first round. I know that
Jetta did.
Just like Jetta, Charlie would have liked them as well. So that's a bummer. Next time, though.
She'll be barking when she hears it.
Yeah. There you go.
A little bit of ow.
Oh my God, Tyler, you said you had a voicemail for us.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Sorry. I had a couple cups of coffee already, so I'm
Little
wired.
yotes for you. This would have approved.
All right. We got a call from a handsome young fella here. Let's see what he said.
Hey guys, Bo here. My question for you guys is the following. Given the rebuilding state of the Red Wings franchise, how long before you see this team, 1, competing for a playoff spot, and 2, competing for a cup? And in both scenarios, do you see any of the current players on the roster remaining on the roster when those times come? If yes, who do you think those players will be? And lastly, who will the coach be when we get to that point? Look forward to hearing the answer. Thanks.
Jeez.
Loaded question. Thanks, Fo. Thanks for the question.
Yes, thank you, Fo. I will. I'm going to start off with this one. I guess I'm going to try to remember all the questions, but competing for a playoff spot, I think 3 years.
I got the transcript in front of me, so if you need help,
okay,
I got you.
I think okay, so I think it'll be 3 years, and yeah,
for playoffs.
I don't need to go in. Yeah, for competing for a playoff spot and getting in the playoffs, I think that'll be reasonable. Just from the progression there and seeing who I think is going to be on the team next year, and then given 2 years to build on that, plus like another first round draft pick to probably be on that team around there, and then some of the guys that we currently have on the team. I don't think there's going to be that many, which I can get into in a sec. I think for a Stanley Cup, I'm thinking that 5 to 7 year time frame. I have no like reason behind that. I just think that that's the typical progression there. And then if you look at the turnaround time of the entire league being that 5 to 7 years, if there's teams, I mean, you look at Chicago for the past 7 years, but now they're kind of turning back in. So that team's probably not going to be competing, and that's and you can see that for a lot of teams, right? Washington's going to be in the same camp. Boston's going to be in the same camp. Vegas will probably still be there. Avalanche are probably will be, turning around. So that's kind of my reasoning, is that it's just another wave. The players, I think that's a tough question right now. I think it's a lot of our draft picks. Moritz is going to be there. Hopefully Raymond's going to be there. Larkin,
Soderblom.
Depending on Soderblom. We'll see how Larkin will obviously be there. I think depending on Bertuzzi's contract, stuff like that. I think your core guys are going to be there. And then you're going to have some depth guys and some of the guys that we probably drafted, hopefully, that are starting to pan out. Mm-hmm. So I'll try to keep it quick. I think if you keep Flashel this year, because you see mixed reports out there whether he's coming or staying. I think that if you keep him for next year, I think that they're going to be better, and they're like, you can just see that wave of like the team progressing. Do that great. But if he's gone this year, then obviously it's going to be a new coach. But I don't know the answer to that. We'll see how it goes. I think that answered everything.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I would agree with you for the most part. I think that they're actually going to be competing for playoffs for 2023. Like, so two years. I think that next year is going to be, like you mentioned, more competitive. But again, when we make playoffs in 2 years, this is just from my opinion. Mm-hmm. Are we going to be a team that's going to make it far? No, we'd surprise a lot of people if we made it out of the first round, including myself. So I think it's going to be 2 years. Again, it's going to be difficult to say who's going to be on the roster. Like you mentioned, the core guys, hopefully some of those younger players will be on. Hopefully Veleno will have more of a role. Mm-hmm. You want to see some of the guys like Niederbach and Soderblom and Jonathan Berggren and those guys come up too. So we'll see. I do think that a lot of the younger core is going to get an opportunity to shine, but the mainstays like, Larkin, I'm hoping Bertuzzi, but with Yzerman, it's very difficult to say. And for a cup, Connor, I would say 5 to 7 would be something that we can shoot for sure. I think that, and I guess once you first make the playoffs, it's kind of, you have, okay, here's where we were last year. What do we need to keep building and keep piling pieces on?
And real quick before Dustin, because I know that you want to answer this too, but on that 5 to 7, I think people have to remember too. So once you start making the playoffs, or at least competing, you can now be buyers at the deadline.
Yes.
And like you can build that championship team a lot quicker, because now you can like quote unquote wait those draft picks that you potentially wouldn't need anymore because you've done that rebuild. So now once you make the playoffs, it might only be 2 years because you can be buyers and you can just kind of, that's how you bet yourself up for, the next 10 years, but every team does that.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead, Dustin.
I mean, honestly, I don't really have much to add.
Yeah,
it's like beating a dead horse. I mean, honestly, 2 years is unrealistic. I don't see them sniffing a playoff spot for probably a 4, honestly.
Why?
Because Blashill's fucking a piece of shit. So once we get rid of him, it might be 2. But until then, I'm not optimistic in the slightest, dude. I'm just being realistic. They had like Blashill, I feel like is a problem, and I think once we move on, he's a good coach, but not for the Red Wings. It's not for that team.
I agree.
Let's move on from him. I think then we'll see more progress. The players, the people we're bringing in, to your point, Connor and Tyler, I see a lot of improvements with the prospects. I like the signings that we've been doing. They're low cost. We're leaving a lot of cap space, so when we do become points, we don't have to worry about that, right? We have a lot of room to work with, and that's what I like about Yzerman. He's not signing big contracts, spending a lot of money until he knows those pieces that he wants to build around, and then he'll start putting a lot of money towards those players. I have a feeling. So yeah, get rid of Blashill. I don't know who the coach would be because it's hard to say who's in the market at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I just read.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just read an article about there was like the next 10 up and coming coaches that should be in the NHL. So I was kind of trying to see if anyone would be a good fit. But a lot of like major junior coaches, not so many or AHL, but then a lot of like college coaches. But anyway, sorry to cut you off. And then you're Stanley. So you got 4 years playoffs, Stanley Cup in
like 5 to 7. Pretty much.
Okay.
I mean, 5 would be pretty crazy if they're just somehow the first.
So you're thinking more like closer to 7.
Yeah, realistically,
okay.
6
So
would be
a little
sweet.
bit longer.
Yeah,
I'm in the middle, and Tyler's expecting a Stanley Cup next year.
Yep. So one thing though on coaches, I heard Gallant might be looking at the Rangers coach.
Really?
Yeah, or sniffing. I don't. That could just speculation, but that's why I kind of saw that.
I really don't like all the articles that you guys were mentioning about Blashill for another year. I don't understand why we wouldn't start fresh with a clean slate. I don't think like Yzerman does. If he sees something in this guy, whatever, I'll throw my hands up, but I'm over it.
I mean, you heard everybody say, like, everyone's talking about, it's supposed to be a quick conversation after the season. The season's been over now for a week. Still.
It makes me very nervous that they're going to drop another year or something.
I mean,
I just don't understand why we would do it.
I don't either. Because now you did the buddy thing, right? You let Ken Holland's deal run out. You said, all right, I took Ken Holland's deal with Jeff Blashill. I'm gonna let it run out. Now you don't have to do the buddy thing. Offer Jeff Blashill a scouting job, a front office job, something. Like, you don't have to say fuck you.
No, he's gonna want to be a like behind the bench of some other team. If not a head coach, then definitely like an assistant or something.
That's fine. But I mean, just you could still offer him that, a scouting position or whatever.
I think he'd spit on that.
Well, whatever. You look at your fucking record as a head coach. Shut the fuck up.
Are you telling me to shut the fuck up?
No. I'm talking about Jeff Blashill.
I was like, hey, chill the hell out, man. What are you doing?
No, just like, dude,
you're just the coach,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, his NHL record doesn't have anything to speak for, so it's like,
Dustin, you like Blashill, we get it.
He's my favorite.
No, but no, I understand what you're saying. I do think that maybe he can be a good coach with the right pieces, not as a rebuild.
No.
For a rebuild,
Yeah.
But I think that, I mean, that was a loaded question. I listened to it when we first got it, and I was like, this is going to spark good conversation.
See, the thing is, Connor, Tyler gets to marinate on these questions. So he has well thought out.
I'm right off the cuff, baby. Right off the cuff.
Yeah.
That's why I let you guys answer first.
Yeah. No, it was good. I really do think, in that 3-year time span, it's going to be like this every year. It's going to be really exciting hockey. The past couple of years were rough, but this year was a lot better, like we called, and then it's just going to continue like this, and watching some of the prospects come up. So either way, whether they're in the playoffs or not in the playoffs, I think they're going to be continuing to compete, and you're going to see some of those young, exciting guys get more and more ice time, which is going to be great.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Well, that's all I had.
All right, me too, boys. Playoff hockey starts tonight at 7. Let's get the puck
Yep.
out of here and see you
Go
next week.
Caps, baby. Woo!
See ya.
See ya.